Hello, how y'all doing out there? Welcome back to another episode of God Concept Podcast, where I'm your host, Mr. Pagan, bringing y'all some more news, some more information about things that y'all might not even be worried about, because a lot of people don't care about things that don't matter to them. But I got a saying, you know, whether you care or not, whether you care or not, things that don't affect you still affect you, right? Things that happen in the world, abroad, whether that's here in America, anywhere, it still affects you on some level. Look at our fucking gas prices. I mean, our gas prices are ridiculous. That goes to show you the things that they do abroad, that's just an example. Things they do somewhere else affect you here every fucking time. One thing about it is, now America got their eyes set. I mean, they never took their eyes off Cuba, but they got their eyes set on Cuba once again. What they do is they'll sit back, they'll plan, they'll wait, and for that opportunity to take something over, and they'll go for it. You know what I mean? And that's what they're doing right now with Cuba. They're getting this man. They're saying that they're indicting him for murders of American citizens, Raul Castro. They're indicting him in Miami for killing Americans back when America was trying to fly over there and give them aid and things like that. Cuba basically told them not to fly into Cuba's airspace. America is arguing that it was a national airspace, so they got permission to fly over there. But once you get your plane from America to Cuba, wouldn't that be considered Cuban airspace? They're going with the claim saying that basically it was international airspace that this happened. And mind you, this happened 30 fucking years ago. I've been reporting on things of how America try to move around and try to take over. I've been putting it out there how America had hand in a lot of different operations that was dealing with Cuba, especially one operation that was pertaining my family. You know what I mean? Operation Peter Pan or Operation Pedro Pan. They refer to it as both. But that operation was basically a cover up for how they were stealing Cuban children and bringing them to America. Which a lot of Cuban people, a lot of Cubans that are here today, they forgot about or choose to forget about repressed memories and things like that. I got videos here of Trump saying basically that he'll take Cuba if he wanted. He'll either free Cuba or he'll take Cuba either way. We already know that people been going to Cuba, trying to take over Cuba, trying to have Cuba influence for whatever reasons. Guantanamo Bay is one of like the most maximum prisons for political prisoners and people who did like major acts, major crimes throughout the world. They hold them in Guantanamo Bay. The most dangerous criminals they hold in Guantanamo Bay in Cuba. America been trying to get Cuba in on its agenda. You know what I mean? Where they agree to certain things, where they agree to taking a vote. You know what I mean? Like voting for presidents, whether having the president's place there, whether they would agree to. I think it was 3 things. I apologize because I just recently been doing all this information. This isn't where my mind has been on all this time. So apologize, commercial. But there's a lot going into it. I mean, you have some people arguing and saying that this man is wrong for killing somebody or this or that, but I believe that it's all just rhetoric put out there to make it look good about them trying to indict this man for something that he did years ago. You know what I mean? They just wanted they wanted to have the theater rolling. You know what I mean? They don't want to look like they're the bully. America never wants to seem like the bully and things like that. But you know, America is tyranny under the gaze, under the veil of democracy, right? This is what we deal with here. Tyranny under the veil of democracy. Where Cuba is just a dictatorship. You know what I mean? Whatever the government decides is whatever the government decides, and pretty much you got to go with that, right? Because they don't have political parties. There's one political party in Cuba, right? Not saying that it's a good or bad thing. I'm pretty much, I'm an American, right? My father's Cuban. He's from Cuba. He was floated here, got here some fucking how, but he got here from Cuba, right? He claimed to have been adopted, so he don't know his parents. But his parents were in Miami. They came from Cuba to Miami, right? He quote unquote was adopted and brought to Philadelphia, where basically I would begin years later after he got to Philadelphia, right? And all his other children as well. But the thing is, I say that to say this. In my lifetime, I've witnessed certain things happen within my own life, within other people's lives, within the whole political realm of how they like to handle things and how they get down, right? With that being said, I know that there's an agenda to take over Cuba. They call it freeing Cuba, but Cuba's already free. Cuba's already a free place. Cuba's been free for a long time. I'm just watching different reports and things like this because I could bring up a bunch of CIA files of how they try to invade Cuba, how they try to take over and things like that. This guy is basically fucking Homelander. You know what I mean? If you think about it, if you look at the parallels between Homelander from a show called The Boys, I'm sure a lot of people out there watch The Boys, right? Villainous superheroes, right? Supposed to protect, but actually they have their own agenda and things like that. That's what this guy is. A villainous president who try to act like he's protecting and doing things in the best interest of America. But he's only doing the best interest in the things that suits Congress, the government, and himself, right? When I look at the parallels between this guy and Homelander, there's a lot of similarities, right? This guy is currently trying to build a over 20-something foot statue of his fucking self, gold statue, right, of himself, right? Homelander did the same thing on The Boys, right? Even look at the face. Look at the face, the hair, everything. Same color as Homelander on The Boys, right? Homelander was trying to depict himself as Jesus, right? What did this guy do? He did the same shit recently. Depicted himself in the robe and everything coming down from heaven, supposedly being Jesus. Trying to act like, listen to him. You heard him? I can't show you the visual, but he said he's freeing up Cuba. He says he's freeing up Cuba. This is what he says. A lot of problems for a lot of years. This was I think it's a very big moment for people that... See, I'm going to run it back. A lot of problems for a lot of years. And we have Cuba on our mind. We have Cuba on our mind. What for? A lot of problems for a lot of years. And this was I think it's a very big moment for people that, not only Cuban Americans, but people that came from Cuba that want to go back to Cuba, people that want to see their family in Cuba. I want to go to Cuba. Me personally, I would love to take a trip to Cuba, right? But they had this embargo set up for so long. Cuba still is so far behind. They got the old cars and the old system. They talk about this 20 hours of power down. They don't have power during the night times and things like this. I would love to go back to Cuba. But the thing about it is, you don't have right to dictate how somebody else run their country. But America loves, Donald Trump loves, to be the front place of the government, of Congress, of who's ever controlling everything, right? And try to take over a place because of how they see fit to run their own country. It's not right. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm an American and all that, but I still have my own point of views and my own say in things, right? And my say is, mind your fucking business. If he's over there doing whatever it is that he's doing in Cuba, and look at this guy. I mean, he lived a long fucking life. Leave the guy alone. All he's doing is trying to run his country the best way he know how. There's people against that, and people are for that. You know, you got two sides either way. You got people that's for it and against it. You know what I mean? You got guys, you got some Cubans that live here in America that's against Donald Trump going for Cuba, trying to take over Cuba, so-called free it, but really trying to take it over, right? And then you got some that's against it. You got them for it and against it. It's like you got to worry about your own backyard and the things that you're doing. Needless to say, America got CIA headquarters in Cuba. America got all types of shit going on in Cuba without having any type of treaty with Cuba. I got a video here. Let's finish watching this. I got a video here where one of the leaders in Cuba is basically saying that they agree every time. Like, they'll come to an agreement on something a lot of times, and then next thing you know, Trump backdoor. I mean, well, not Trump, because Trump wasn't in office for all the agreements that happened. But America would somehow back out of the agreements that they had. If you've ever worked in manufacturing, America would back out of the agreements that they had and basically not keep their word. America would back out of the agreements. The government who's in control. I know that there's a close communication with them. Okay. Mr. Deputy Foreign Minister, I'm going to start this report over. And joining me now is Deputy Foreign Minister of Cuba, Carlos Fernandez. Carlos Fernandez. Welcome to Meet the Press. He brings a lot of information. He knows a lot of the history that goes on and stuff like that, too. Thank you for having me. Thank you so much for being here. Now, see, the thing is, America will agree to a lot of things and never meet that end of the bargain. And I mean, I do my research. Didn't they do the same fucking thing to the Native Americans that was here? They did the same thing to the Native Americans that was here. They made all type of agreements, and they fucked them over with paper genocide. You hear that? I gotta run that back. I do believe I'll be. I want to start off by playing for you. Listen closely. That President Trump said about Cuba just this is President Trump saying this. Let's take a listen. I do believe I'll be having the honor of taking Cuba to be good. That's a big honor. Taking Cuba in some form, yeah. Taking Cuba. I mean, whether I taking Cuba, free it, take it. I think I could do anything I want with it. You want to? Yeah. Mr. Deputy Foreign Minister, what was your... And that's not... Is that not dictatorship right there? Is that not no form of dictatorship right there? He's just talking about taking Cuba. Taking over Cuba, he feel like he can do whatever he want with it. And has the right to be a sovereign country. And has the right to self-determination. Cuba would not accept to become a vassal state, independent state, any other country or any other. Well, let's delve into this a little bit. They're a southern country. They don't want to become a part of external aggressor.
will clash with impregnable resistance. Do you believe any action by the United States would escalate into a military?
It's sad.
We hope not, but what our president expressed is what any country that respects itself would.
This is what they saying.
Convey.
See,
if there was a threat to try to take over a country or to try to dominate.
Cuba is very small, but very, very powerful. Cuba is very, very small, but very, very powerful. And America been wanting to take them over for a long time, for spiritual reasons, for physical reasons, and a lot of control.
In fact, we wish, and we said it openly, that we would like to have a friendly and respectful relationship with the United States, with its government.
They want to have
We've been developing it for a long time with the people of the United States.
And yet
they've been developing friendly communication and treaties with America for a long time. But every now and then, America will try to fuck them over. This is what happens when a big power has less control, right? And a smaller power, a greedy power, wants to have more control. So they just want to take these people over for whatever reasons, whether that's for financial reasons, whether that's for the land, whether that's for having control of the people, because it's something very powerful about Cuban people. It's something very powerful about that island, right? About the people who reside there, that they just want to take control of.
Heard those words by President Trump. So I'm wondering, is your military preparing for a potential engagement with the United States?
Our military is always prepared, and in fact, it is preparing these days for the possibility of military aggression. We would be naive if looking at what's happening around the world, we would not do that. But we truly hope.
This just seems like a movie.
We don't see,
but it's real fucking life.
Find no justification whatsoever.
This just seems like a movie, but it's real fucking life.
Its country take military action against a neighboring country.
So this is a remarkable.
Things is really happening out here.
Cuba is in fact preparing for the potential possibility of a military engagement with the United States. Can you be more specific? What do those preparations?
So you gotta realize we live in a country where it's been taken over. A lot of our people, a lot of our citizens, especially, you know what I mean, the Caucasians or whatever, the white ones, they don't care because they're part of a powerful country, right? They don't care because they're one of the superpowers in this world, a dominating country, you know what I mean? But at the same time, you got a lot of those same Caucasians that feel like they should mind their business. That feel like that America really should mind their business in the affairs that goes on other places.
People charge them, they get benefits, so they have to get paid.
So is the United States insisting on regime change in order to give economic relief?
I don't know what they're insisting among themselves, but I can tell you in conversation with you.
I'm just listening.
In dialogue with the United States, the nature of the Cuban government, the structure of the Cuban government, and the members of the Cuban government are not part of the negotiation. That is something that no sovereign country negotiates. I don't know how many examples are there of countries that negotiate with a foreign power their system of government or the nature of the government. I'm sure the United States is not ready to negotiate with another government its constitutional system, its political system. Now, the U.S. government knows.
So America is just trying to take over.
Are in a great measure the result of policies of the United States aimed.
And I don't know if you remember. I don't know. A lot of people out here remember, right? This is what America does. This is what our government does. They'll go into another place and take them over. They did this shit to Puerto Rico. They did this shit overseas in Africa to a few places that they, quote unquote, freed or took control of over. They did this to a lot of places. Cuba is one place that they've been trying to control on a level of having dominant control over it. Because they already there. They already have power there. They already have influence there. But they want complete control, complete takeover. This is the same thing. This is just an upscale version of what they do to us in our everyday lives. And people don't want to realize that, especially with people who's well off. If you got money in the bank, you got a good job, you're secure in your life, you know what I mean? You're having it your way, basically, like Burger King. You're having it your way, right? You don't give a fuck if America has control over it because you're having a good life. But to the people who are poor and impoverished, or that lower class and middle class group of people, right? You actually care more if you actually thought outside the box. Why is your life going this way? Right? Why are you in this situation? Why are you less than when you could be more than, right? When you could be greater than, or you could be on an equal level with a lot of other people. It's because it's designed that way. You know, this country is the largest fucking experiment, right? This country experiments within itself and with everybody else around the world as well. You know, a lot of good things come out of it. They portray a lot of good things. They say a lot of good things. They show a lot of good things that come from it. But they'll never show you the wickedness or the evilness that come from it. The way they affect people's lives when they're doing these covert operations. And if you look, it's public knowledge. I spoke about this before. If you look into the CIA files and see how many operations they ran against Cuba, the Bay of Pigs, it was a few more that's not coming to mind right now. But the Bay of Pigs, Operation Peter Pan, Operation Pedro Pan, it's the same thing. They've had so many hands dealing with Cuba, trying to take over Cuba for whatever reason. When they already have influence there, they already have power there. But you want their form of government to match up with your form of government, with America's form of government.
It's causing us much harm.
They want to change the way you live.
Cuban society and to the people of Cuba, which makes it for any government very difficult to manage things and to get good results when a superpower is exerting such level of pressure, above all economically, on the country.
Are you saying that regime change is off the table?
Absolutely.
Okay, let's talk about what changes you would potentially be willing to make to save your country. The embargo with the U.S.
Even the news reporter, if you notice it, even a reporter who's asking these questions to a man who already has power and influence, he's the deputy over there, basically. Like, he has a lot of power in Venezuela and Cuba and everything like that. Even her questions are loaded questions, right? She'll say certain things to save your country, to save this, to save that, to, you know what I mean? It's like she's a part of, like, our own reporters will sit up there and do an interview with somebody and basically try to downplay the person's power or whatever their position is and talk and put America in the forefront and in power. I mean, it's being done that way because, of course, she's an American and this is where she's from. But if you listen to her,
if Cuba does three,
at causing as much harm possible to the Cuban economy, Cuban society, and to the people of Cuba, which makes it for any government very difficult to manage things and to get good results when a superpower is exerting such level of pressure, above all economic.
This is what they do. Apply pressure.
Are you saying that regime change is off the table?
Regime change is off the table. But this is what America do. Absolutely. Even in your own personal life, they apply pressure.
Let's talk about what changes you would potentially be willing to make to save your country. The embargo
to save your country.
If Cuba does three things: schedule elections, recognize political parties, unions, and a free press, and release all political prisoners. Will you commit to any of those steps, Mr. Deputy Foreign Minister, in order to save your country?
Foreign minister is what he is.
You pay $10 a month for the internet. Here's how.
Deputy foreign minister is his official title, right? The thing is, you asked her release. You listen to her. She said release political prisoners.
Steps, Mr. Deputy Foreign Minister, in order to save your country.
Acknowledge presidents and things like this, and start doing a voting.
We are in dialogue with the United States to talk about bilateral issues. We're not talking about prisoners in the United States, and the U.S. has the highest record of prisoners in the world.
Now she's going to try to talk over him.
Political prisoners.
Now she's going to try to talk over him.
The United States has a huge amount of people that are in jail for whatever reasons, but that have strong political positions. If we're talking about political positions, we're not talking about those in the case of the United States. In Cuba, we're not talking about prisoners in our negotiation with the United States. It's a domestic issue of Cuba. It is not a bilateral issue with the United States. And the U.S. knows it. But there are many, many important issues of a bilateral nature that should and could be discussed between Cuba and the United States for the benefits of both countries. And that is what we are ready to engage with in conversations with the government of the United States.
Well, and going back to those potential issues, there is only one political party in Cuba, so currently people really have no choice. Going back to my original question, would you be willing to change that in order to save your country, given that it's one of the things that the United States is asking for?
America want to ask for every fucking thing, right? America want to take everything, want to ask you for everything. But what are they willing to give? Right? What are they willing to give? Right? They demand so much from you, right? But what are they willing to, this Homelander looking motherfucker? He loves this shit. He's a businessman. He loves to run a corporation and take, and never give. That's basically what Cuba is dealing with right now. The wolves is at the fucking door over in Cuba, right? And the wolf's name is Donald Trump. The wolf's name is America right now. And don't get me wrong, I love America. I'm an American. I'm wearing an American flag right fucking now. But at the same time, I'm also Cuban. I also been affected by a lot of these things that's happening. Whether I know it or not, whether it took place, whether it took part in shaping my life to what it is now today, I've been affected by these things. My father been affected by these things. You know, I never met my my grandparents on his side of the family. Why? Did they actually live in Miami? Did they actually thrive in Miami? Or was he told that his parents stayed in Miami and he was adopted? While they got executed so they couldn't let out a truth or let him know something about his life and how he actually got here. Right? This is what America does. America is a great place, a great nation, but it's very, very corrupt. And it's very, very powerful to the point where it'll take everything from you and seem like it did nothing at all. You know, the level of espionage that happens in your everyday life is so prevalent, but you can't see it. Now we talk about the algorithms and everything, how everything's connected, how you have a thought and it pops up on your phone, how you can say something and next thing you know, you're getting ads for this thing that you feel like you need, but you might be on the fence of buying and this and that or investing. And now you're getting ads for it everywhere. You're seeing it everywhere. You're hearing about it on your radio, on your phone at any given moment. I mean, we really got to think. We got to think about those type of things because it's showing you that this world that we live in, this life that we live in, is very controlled on another level, on a higher level. It's out of this fucking world how this shit is controlled.
That's all political parties that can go to government. Are they ready to negotiate to have 10 with equal possibilities of getting to the presidency, of getting in Congress? I'm sure the United States will not negotiate that with any country. I don't know if they have the willingness to it, but I'm sure they won't negotiate it. Cuba is a sovereign nation, as I said at the beginning of the program.
Cuba's a sovereign nation.
Of course, it's something that is not on the table to negotiate Cuba now. Okay. And Cuba's problems are not the result of having one party.
When did the last discussions take place between the United States and Cuba, and where?
I won't go into detail. We said publicly that we're going to be discreet about it, and we're going to remain that way.
Can you tell me what the ultimate goal is of these discussions from your perspective? What do you hope to gain?
Our aim is to try to build a respectful relationship. The U.S. government, current government, has said that it wants to make America great again. We have no problem with that.
Listen to this part.
Secure borders. We have no problem with that. In fact, we can help with that.
See, America says that they want to make America great again, right? That's that guy's slogan. Want to make America great again. Cuba has no quarrel with that.
This government, the current government, has said that it wants to make America great again. We have no quarrel with it.
No quarrel.
That it wants to have secure borders. We have no quarrel with that. In fact, we can help with that.
See, we pause it right there because Cuba, this is the foreign minister, right? The deputy foreign minister, right? For Cuba. He's saying that they don't got no quarrel with making the borders safer. In fact, they can help with that. What's wrong with that? I mean, what's wrong with a place telling you that they want to help you keep your homeland secure? They're a sovereign nation. What's wrong with being sovereign? Unless somebody demands control. If somebody's demanding control and want control, they won't let up on you until they have control. Isn't that oppression? Isn't that oppression right there? When you're going up against a superpower and you're a sovereign nation, and they just demand control. They won't let you go. They won't let you live your life. They won't let you be a free people, a free country, unless they have control.
It wants immigrants that enter into the United States to do so legally, not illegally. And we have no problem with that. In fact, we can help with that from our side. And those are the kinds of issues that we believe are of interest of the people of the United States and for the government of the United States. We can work together to fight drug trafficking, to fight organized crime in our region, to fight threats in general in our region. And that's what governments and countries do with each other when they have dialogue, and when they cooperate. We can also talk about business. There are changes taking place in Cuba today in our investment policy.
That's another thing. When a lot of these people in political offices want their money protected to the point where nobody won't know that they have it, because best believe politicians are not supposed to be career politicians. But nowadays, everybody's a fucking career politician because they're in line with the elites. They have a certain bloodline that they follow, right? And this is all spiritual things, right? They have a certain bloodline that they follow. So what they'll do is they'll protect themselves from backlash from the citizens. They don't want to get backlash from the citizens. They don't want the citizens to know that even though they're in a mediocre position within the government, right, within the political realm, right, they don't want them to know that really they're rich as fuck, that they're well off to the point where they don't really need for nothing. So what they'll do is they'll set up offshore bank accounts. A lot of people talk about Swedish bank accounts, these bank accounts, that place, but they have a lot of accounts in Cuba too. They do. They have a lot of accounts in Cuba. I don't know if a lot of people remember this, but you could do your history on this and look back at it. But back when the mafia, right, first came to America and things like that, and they established power here, right, through the FBI, through means of this, through means of gangster shit that they was doing, and becoming a part of America, right, and becoming a part of the CIA and the FBI and that whole system, right? They used to love to go to Cuba, and they still do, and open up casinos and racetracks and have brothels and have crazy parties in Cuba and things like that. Why? Because that was like they playland. All this man is trying to do is take over or so-called free their playland where they like to play and do all their dirty business, right? That's why they want to take over Cuba. Because it's a lot of things to be had in Cuba. It's a lot of things to be said about Cuba that's bigger than the superpower that's trying to take them over. And one thing about it is America don't want a small little country, a small sovereign country like Cuba being its own, having its own sovereignty, having its own power in a way that's such. We're not trying to take over no other country. We're not trying to take, Cuba isn't trying to take over any other country. But here in America, if they could take over your shit and do it under the guise of helping you out, that's what they always promote, helping you out. We're gonna help you. This is the same thing they do to our women in America. They'll sit up there and break up the family structure under the guise of helping out the woman, giving her subsidized housing, giving her what is that? The EBT card, you know what I mean? The food stamps and everything like that. They'll do all of these things. But what would the one requirement be all the time? And everybody here, everybody knows what that requirement is. The man can't be in a household. The man has to be away from his children, has to be out of the woman's life in order for the woman to get any assistance from the government. When in fact, if the man and the woman just worked together and kept their family together, then the life of that child would be more prosperous because he wouldn't come from a broken family. You know, that's just to go to show you how they do the same thing that they're doing to certain countries in your everyday life, in our everyday lives.
In the way different forms of property work in Cuba, which could be of interest for the United States and for Americans who today cannot do business in Cuba because they are prohibited by their government. Those are issues that we can talk about, and we can find room for accommodation. We're not shut down, or we're not closed to having some accommodation if it can improve the relationship with the United States in those areas. And I'm sure there's a lot of areas in which, if we sit down and discuss meaningfully, we can have a lot of ground to work on, and for the benefit, again, of both countries.
Secretary Rubio is the son of Cuban immigrants. He has spent his career criticizing your government. In fact, at one point he was asked, is Cuba a state sponsor of terrorism? He said, without question. Can you negotiate in good faith with Secretary of State Marco Rubio?
A country of terror and a Rubio, Marco Rubio, whatever his fucking name is, he said without question. It's sad, man. That they'll paint wherever you from, right? Your home, whatever, your mother, you know what I mean? How they call Africa, Mother Africa, your mother country, wherever you're from, wherever your roots is from, they'll deem them to be terrorists just because they don't want to join or have an alliance with another country. They just want to remain a sovereign country. You see what they've been doing in Cuba for a long time? Cuba got cars from the 1970s and 60s and 50s. 50s. Cuba got cars from the 50s, man. Still out there riding around. They don't got no type of technology or anything because they want to be a sovereign country. But yet and still, they want to try to indict the president of Cuba, Raul Castro, for shooting down a plane 30 years ago. That he probably had nothing to do with it. This guy probably had nothing to do with it, but they want to indict this man. This is just another way for them to put their foot in the door so that door don't close on them.
We have a position.
Every so often they have to do things like this because after a while they start to lose. If they set up treaties and contracts, right? When they set up these treaties and contracts, they have a deadline. If that deadline isn't met, right? where both parties come to a mutual agreement, then now is off the table, right? The contracts, the treaties off the table. So before that happens, America got to figure out another way, right? Donald Trump has to figure out another way of keeping a foot in the door before that door fully closes. And that's what America is doing. But truth be told, the door isn't closing there for them because they still have CIA in Cuba. They still have FBI in Cuba. They run operations in Cuba. They still have Guantanamo Bay. I always say that wrong word, fucked up. They still have Guantanamo Bay, where they hold some of their worst criminals and things like that, based in Cuba. So, I mean, listen,
And it's not only a long-standing position, it's a logical position. What's the alternative to having dialogue with a country with which you have problems? So we face dialogue as the natural, the logical, and the necessary avenue for us to discuss. Now, we also have experience of having dialogue with the United States, some with good results, but also some in which Cuba has fulfilled all of the commitments that we have agreed to, and yet the United States has reversed many of them. And the best example was during...
They came to agreements that Cuba fulfilled their part of the bargain, and America just never upholded their part of the bargain. It's very reminiscent of how this country was started, because this was America at one point, but now it's the United States of America. Because the America part, the America part took over a lot of places. So now it's the United States of America, because everybody had to make certain agreements with America to have certain freedoms that they have, to even be able to operate as a state, as a,
2014, 15, 16, and even 17, in which we reached agreements. Cuba fulfilled all of them, and the United States, by their own recognition, broke all those agreements and said that they would not follow what they had agreed the previous year.
America would say that they're not going to follow suit with what they previously agreed upon. So who should be getting indicted? Should it be their president? Right? Who already caused our fucking nation's capital to get overran by his fucking group, by his own fucking groups and his own fucking fanatics that love him? Or is it the Cuban government? Is it any government? Because if I can recall, Gaddafi was killed, right? Remember they did the whole thing with Gaddafi where he was supposed to be a dictator over there? He was trying to change his currency. See, they'll build up a theatrical play, right, to fit their own needs. He was building up his own currency. His currency was going to be gold, right? America didn't want that because it would it would collapse their dollar bill. So they went in and they killed Gaddafi before he could convert his currency over from a form of currency that really was, because our currency is just basically fucking paper. It really holds no weight, right? The world's currency, though, is taken in silver and gold, minerals and things like that. And people, your currency too. Whether you believe it or not, people are a currency. People hold value. This is why they give you birth certificates and things like that. This is why you have a social security number, your stock, your cattle slip. So yeah, you're a part of the currency as well. People. Those Cuban people over there are part of the currency that America wants. That land over there is a part of the currency that America wants. And our government won't stop until it gets a piece of it. If you really do the math and backtrack the files from then to now, you'll see that they always been poking the bear. America, whoever's the president in office, always poked the bear. Why is Cuba any interest of this man here? Why do you want to take over so bad?
But still with that, we follow that.
But on Secretary Rubio specifically, is he someone with whom you can negotiate in good faith?
We are ready to negotiate with the person that the U.S. government, as a sovereign nation, designates as their spokesperson, as their lead negotiator. We're ready to negotiate with whoever is designated by the U.S.
Whoever is
government. We're a
designated.
sovereign nation. We don't interfere with.
There are reports that Secretary Rubio is dealing directly with Raul Castro's grandson, Raulito. Is that accurate? Why is he the one who has...
And he can't speak on this. He can't. This gentleman can't speak on this.
I won't go into detail.
He won't go into
The
detail.
point I need to make is that the Cuban political leadership.
You know why? Because Raulito, right, is his name. Raulito Castro, right? The grandson of this gentleman right here, right? He don't want... Basically, he's selling out. He's in negotiations with America about things that he's not even in control of, possibly don't even understand.
Is committed to this.
But he's for selling out. He just want to sell out.
This is led by...
He tired of the bullshit, basically.
Chopped by the president of Cuba, who recognized this publicly and said it publicly.
A lot of us just bow down and give up whatever hope we have for being truly free, because you're tired of being attacked. You're tired of the bullshit. So you just give in. And that's what I believe what Raulito is doing. Raulito Castro is tired of his country going through so much, right? At the hands of America, right? Now I'm America. I'm proud to be an American, right? I thank God that I'm here, right? But in the same token, it's oppression, man. It's a lot of oppression that happens to a lot of us, you know? And a lot of us will turn a blind eye to it. We'll trade in our freedoms for security. When they stage different acts of terror that happen all over this fucking country and in other places, they'll paint somebody else to be the demon so they can be the hero. That's what America does a lot of times. They'll paint somebody else to be a demon, so this way they can swoop in and say, oh, we saved this, and we sent aid here, and we did this here. When in all reality, it was all orchestrated by the same people who play the hero. They play the victim just to play the hero. They'll paint somebody else to be the bad guy so they can play the victim, and then they can be the hero. It's all orchestrated.
But you don't dispute that report that Secretary of State Marco Rubio is dealing directly with the grandson of Raul Castro? You don't deny that?
I won't go into details.
Okay. Let's talk broadly speaking now. The United States has made its goal of regime change.
He can't go into details.
Say that's off the table, as you just reiterated here. In Venezuela, the Trump administration...
His life would be in danger if he possibly said anything about Raulito Castro.
With acting President Delcy Rodriguez, Iran was in ongoing talks with the U.S. when their leadership was killed. Do you believe Cuba will have a different outcome?
I prefer for people, when they judge Cuba, not to make parallels. We have our own reality, our own circumstances. And as I said at the beginning,
he said a lot right there. He don't want people to judge Cuba based on the parallels, right? Because they have their own reality, right? All of us have our own reality we live in. This shit is really like a level of virtual reality that we live in, right? And what America wants to do is control everybody's reality, everybody's point of view. And listen,
it won't be.
It's deep.
We don't think there's any need for there to be any military action by the U.S. against Cuba.
And respectfully, Mr. Deputy Foreign Minister, when people look at...
Because they'll take it by force.
Countries, when they hear the comments...
America will try to go in there and take it by force. But you're hearing the guy right now, the Deputy Foreign Minister. He's telling you he don't want any military action done from America to Cuba. Just because they want what? More political power, more influence?
by President Trump, saying effectively that he does plan to go into Cuba. It seems impossible for people not to draw parallels. So why would there be a different outcome? Are you bracing for the possibility of a similar outcome?
You would have to ask that question to the United States. We are ready for any outcome, and we have to be ready for any outcome. As you said at the beginning, unfortunately, we're trying to prepare ourselves for any outcome, including the ones that we feel that there's no justification for them to occur.
What matters to you more in this moment, preserving the revolution or saving the island from total economic collapse?
What fucking revolution is she speaking of? You see how the questions, how she'll say something that's kind of loaded? How she'll say that they're revolutionary and things like that? That gives Americans the sense that Cuba is trying to revolt, right? A revolution is to revolt, right? To revolve, right? Or to evolve in a way where you're breaking away from some type of control that somebody's trying to have over you or have over your family, right? Revolution. This is what she's alluding to. But Cuba is just a sovereign country who wants to remain sovereign and not be stifled or held down by any of the oppressive views of America, right? Or the politics.
Saving our people from being overtaken by a foreign power and to take it back decades to a Cuba that we overcame a long time ago. Cuba that people don't have good memories of them, only very few people. And to continue to protect our people, the peace that we have in our country, the tranquility that we have in our country, the social justice that exists in Cuba, the sense of solidarity among our people. That is the nature of Cuba. And it is our priority to protect that.
Don't just stand there like a...
See, he letting you know right now that they got a lot of freedom in Cuba. America don't like that. America don't like for freedom to be free, right? And let me stop saying that, right? Because freedom isn't free, right? But I'm going to stop saying that because then it look like I'm somehow against America. I'm for America. I love America, right? I'm for America. I got the flag on my fucking hat once again. But at the same time, we all know if you ever had to struggle to pay bills or just anything to get ahead or just seem like it costs. Everything fucking costs. Everything costs here, right? We got people in prison right now that aren't out of jail because they don't have the money to pay a lawyer or pay the lawsuit or do this or pay the fine. They'll lock you up just for not having the money, right? Because something you did that they deem fit to be wrong. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that everybody in prison is supposed to be out of prison and things like that. Some of the people should be there. This is why they make sure they take money away from people or make sure you don't have any money to fight and get out of prison when they feel like you should be there. Some people should be there. But some people are incarcerated unjustly, unwillingly. They don't want to be there because they don't have the money. Because they don't have the money, they can't ever get out.
Cubans, as you know, died trying to protect Nicolas Maduro. They were his bodyguards. I have to ask you, have you reached out to the acting president of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez?
We have a very fluent communication with them.
And what is the nature of that communication?
It's not something that I follow personally. I couldn't answer that with detail, but I know that there's a close communication with them.
Oh, okay. Mr. Deputy Foreign Minister, this all, of course, comes back to oil. Your country has not received oil.
On that note, right, I'm going to go ahead and end this episode of my podcast because I got other things to attend to. I got other things to worry about. So, you know, once again, this has been God Concept. I'm your host, Mr. Pagan. I'm gonna continue to look into this a little bit more so I can report more. Please like, share, subscribe, do all of that. To get my viewership up to help me get monetized and everything. Because I'm not turning a blind eye to anything that's going on in our country, with our country, or Cuba as well. Because I love both places. I love both places. But the shit needs to stop. So this has been an episode of God Concept Podcast. Peace. Y'all stay blessed and stay aware.